know what he did all day on Wednesday? That's exactly what he did all day. He was sitting in front of his TV, watching YouTube, playing video games, whatever, talking to people on his phone. That's all he did all day. Welcome back to Poutine Politics, Canadian issues served with cheese curds. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.
And today, we kind of feel like we have to talk about the teacher strike.
Yeah, it's ongoing and it's interesting, and I'm pretty sure I already know what side of the fence Adam is on.
And I think I know what side of the fence you're on, although I think you're kind of on the fence.
Yes, I am on the fence. But yes, Adam has nepotism, what we call it?
Well,
a little bit.
Maybe.
A little bit.
I mean, would I call it nepotism? No, because I'm not in the teaching profession. I am bias adjacent.
Bias adjacent.
Yes.
Yes.
As I've mentioned in previous episodes, my father used to be a teacher and my sister's a teacher. So, I mean, that's... Yes, I do. That's why I say I do have some adjacency bias.
And my attitude towards it is there's certain things that I'll say I agree with the teachers, and there's certain things I disagree with the teachers.
And I suppose since we have listeners outside of Ontario, we should also mention that we're talking about the Ontario teacher strike. Let's just say that other provinces, probably Alberta, I wouldn't be surprised if they experience this at some point in the next couple of years when their collective bargaining agreement comes up.
Yep, I could see that happening too.
I looked at the perspective of what the teachers are looking for, and I do have some notes in here in regards to the government's position, but it was not easy to find a concise list, I guess. You know, the government releases things in press releases and sound bites and selfies with the Minister of Education in what he seems to claim are public education facilities and then turns out to be a private school. Oh, look at this math program that is so great at such and such a school. Hey, you idiot. You realize you're at a private school, right? Good job.
Oh, Steve Leachy. He doesn't seem like I'll say it this way. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He just seems like he has to somehow make whatever Mr. Ford and his grand wisdom try to make it make sense to everyone else.
Yeah.
And parse it down.
Yeah. You might not be wrong there.
Maybe I just look at the bright side of people. I really do sometimes.
Maybe.
Unless you've repeatedly failed me over and over again, Doug Ford. So then I just don't care. Like, I expect the worst from you, Doug Ford.
Look, I didn't vote for the PCs in the 2018 election. But again, it was kind of a situation of, well, you can't vote for the Liberals because the Liberals, one, had been in power long enough, and two, had really screwed some stuff up. It was like, I can't vote for the Liberals in good conscience either. Anyways.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to vote for it.
No.
I was going to vote Brown.
Yes, we were going to. Both of us have said that we would have voted for Patrick Brown, and then, he unceremoniously got dumped. Well, no, it wasn't really unceremoniously. It was very ceremoniously dumped.
Yep. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yes, exactly. So I've got notes in regards to the teachers' sides, and I've got notes from both unions. So there's the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, and there's the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation. Some of their stuff is similar because they're all teachers, but some of their stuff is different because, like for instance, the elementary teachers also covers designated early childhood educators because their DECEs have positions in kindergarten classes in elementary schools, and so they are a part of that union as well. I don't know if they're not like, I guess, the same level as teachers, obviously, but they're within that union.
Yep.
And so their pay and their benefits and different things like that is covered under the same bargaining as the teachers in that regard.
And a lot of the things are the same. It's just basically the pay scale.
Yeah. That's what I looked at first was the elementary teachers, because it was actually easy to find the information. They have a website for collective bargaining, and they have a list of what their issues are with nice, tidy little summaries that I was able to summarize even further.
Oh, man. It's like they were teaching to grade fours.
Well, I mean, spell it out. If you want the public on your side.
That is a grade 6 reading.
Yes. Then the public needs to be able to understand what's going on. If you put it in a concise single location, then it's easier to point, say, like the parents of the students to that location to say, this is what's going on from our side of things. Now, again, obviously, it's not from the government side of things, so there's biases, obviously, towards the teachers in what they're listing. But I feel like at the same time, what the teachers are listing is probably the stuff that's more likely going to affect the students than what the government would list. This is the list of bargaining issues that the elementary teachers had. So the first one was class sizes. So just smaller class sizes. Simple enough.
But stay them the same. Isn't it?
Yeah, keep the average class sizes where they were before the PCs came in and said we're going to start bumping up the average class sizes.
And why? What are the two reasons why they want to keep them the same size?
Well, they want to keep them the same size.
Yes.
So one has to do with dealing with individual student needs.
That's right.
Is a big reason, and the second reason is safety.
No, I'm not talking about safety. I'm talking about job loss.
Well, okay, job losses, yes, but going off of what their website, what the elementary teachers' website gave, the second reason was more so not job safety, but like actual physical safety.
Yeah, I consider that a little something. Like individual kids. If you have less kids, you're gonna have less problems. If you have less kids, it's better for the students. Just better for the students.
Yes.
It's better for the faculty overall.
Yep.
And then if you have less. But if you have more students, you're going to have less faculty. So in a way, you are firing them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. That was one of Doug Ford's promises, wasn't it?
Not one job lost.
Not one job lost.
Not one job lost.
All right,
Not one
on.
job lost. I mean, attrition was fine. Like attrition as in like people retiring. Part of the thought process of the government was that there would be enough teachers retiring over the next 4 to 5 years that it wouldn't really be job losses because the jobs that would be disappearing would just be retiring teachers anyways. Never mind the fact that when a teacher retires, it kind of opens a position up for someone else.
Let's put a little footnote on the attrition thing.
Okay.
I found out some more stuff about that,
All right.
which I laugh at.
We can do that. Second note was health and safety. So this is, I guess this is going on to the safety thing that I was talking about in class sizes. So part of it is workplace violence and harassment. Apparently school board, an issue that the teachers have had is school boards not providing adequate information in regards to students with a history of violent behavior.
Okay, but how is that a part of the collective bargaining agreement?
The way I understand it is that while the government does the overarching bargaining, the employment agreement that the teachers have is technically with the individual school boards. So there is actually individual agreements between the school boards and the teachers' federations as well. And so, so the issue here apparently is that a school board might know about a child that has displayed violent tendencies or something like that. Maybe they've attacked a teacher or a support staff or another student or something like that, and they get removed from a school. They get moved to another school in the district, but the school board's not passing that information along to say, hey, we're sending this child to your school. Oh, by the way, this is why we're doing it. I guess they want
to make it a mandatory thing as opposed to school board by school board.
That's as I understood how it was worded. So improving pregnancy and parental leave benefits. I think it's increasing the percentage that they receive when they're off or something like that.
It's to let people know. I'm taking the perspective of not disagreeing with the point of view. I'm taking the perspective of if you want people to be on your side, how are they going to get? Because I feel the teachers are for the most part in the right. I'll say that. Let's just hop off the fence. But I'm also going to take the position of, what's the general population going to go? Well, why should a teacher get more benefits than the average person? Collective bargaining agreement or not, why should they?
And I think that's
going to be
the argument that the government's using.
For sure.
Right? Because the government's standpoint right now is that the only thing that's holding up getting to an agreement is that the teachers want more compensation. And the teachers are saying it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, and that's one of the big stumbling blocks. Like if you're going to ask for more benefits for individual things, it's kind of like, well, that can be used as a bargaining chip, but you're not going to get that. Yeah. And you're not going to get moral support for that. You get a certain amount no matter what from the government, like as a rule for pregnancy leave and everything like that.
Right.
If you want more than that.
Oh, it's yeah. So it was supplemental benefits. So like some of the things they mention here. So the union's been successful in bargaining improved pregnancy and parental provisions in the past, including job protection, earnings replacement, mothers and parents' right to take leave from work. So that's like an older thing that they probably bargained like a long time ago.
Yeah.
But then also supplementary benefits for occasional teachers and hourly staff is something that they collectively bargained the rights for, I guess, to make sure that they received adequate benefits from parental leave in comparison to what a full-time teacher would have. So it's like they're not just bargaining on from the position of a full-time teacher.
No,
right?
no, I completely understand that. Yeah. Like, I mean, they have to bargain for all stages, like part-time, semi-retired, full-time.
Yeah. Like one of the notes they say here, so other sectors, for example, nursing, police services, firefighters, college, universities, and Ontario Public Service have far superior top-up entitlements that are not restricted to the birth mother but can often be accessed by either parent. So they're just, I guess maybe they're trying to get in line with other unions and other public sector workers.
But if you're trying to win over the public.
Yes.
That's a terrible talking point.
It could be. A funding gap in elementary education. So apparently currently the province spends a little over $600 less per student at the elementary level in comparison to the secondary level.
See, and this is where it gets murky because both sides are guilty of this about comparing policy with collective bargaining. And that's policy.
Yeah.
As much as you want to call it collective bargaining, I mean, what they spend per student should not impact your strike.
It shouldn't. Yeah, it's not something that would affect the agreement, but it's something that I guess the teachers want to see.
For sure.
Evened out, I guess.
Yeah, like I'd rather see a lot of things change than the spending on the students, but from a strike standpoint, like that's not important.
Right. Teacher workload. So it's kind of the argument from people that are not supportive of the teachers is like, you've got the easiest job because it's 6 hours a day and you get weekends off and you get 3 months off a year and this and that and the other thing. And those people don't realize that a majority of teachers, when they leave the school, their job's not done.
Yeah. And they don't work 6 hours. Like they're not.
It's not like their job is from when the bell rings in the morning to when the bell rings in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's not from 9 till 3:30, right? It's really from 8:30 to 4.
And then also if there's other things that they like lesson planning and stuff like that they do after the fact.
Yeah,
because a lot of that stuff gets done not during school time and not even in that window of time right before or right after the school day starts.
And that's not including any extracurricular activities that they do, any of those other things that they do. Now, there are teachers that don't, and that's where people that are on the opposite side, they say, well, this teacher never did. And I can name a few teachers in my high school that definitely were not doing anything but the bare minimum. But then again, I can point to like hundreds of teachers where I would come back from being on a basketball trip at 7 o'clock at night and the teacher's still in the classroom.
Yeah. Because they did, I mean,
what they did.
They stay at the school to get the work done because maybe that helps them focus better as opposed to going home. Like I can't remember how many times when my dad was teaching. I mean, it felt like almost every single school day. Yeah, he'd be at dinner, like at the table for dinner. But when dinner was done, he was usually back downstairs at his desk, preparing lesson plans, preparing tests, preparing whatever. You know, I mean, like I know it was different then as well because it was before computers and things like that. So like he was handwriting everything, right? Maybe some of this stuff is a little bit faster to do because of computers and such, but I don't feel like it's that much easier.
The hours notion, if it was in, this is why the work to rule comes in such play. If they were work to rule, yes, they are very well compensated. And they don't really have a leg to stand on.
Yes.
But they're not. That's not what they do, right? Their mandate says this, but they go, it's not very often you find a teacher that is work to rule all the time.
Right. Like they're in work to rule now because of the situation. But it's not like, that's not 100% of their time.
No.
Don't even get me into the fact that, they had to pay for supplies out of their own pockets. And people are like, well, they can afford it. And it's like, that's not the point though.
Yeah.
It's public education.
I don't understood that, why they have to pay. Like, when I found that out, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I mean, there's a tax credit for them now. But
What?
really, why should we have to introduce a tax credit for teachers that spend money out of their own pockets for supplies for this classroom that they shouldn't have to be spending out of their own pockets?
Yeah, I never understood that.
Teaching principals and vice principals. So the idea here is that there's administrative staff that kind of part-time potentially takes the position of a teacher to run a class. And that not only takes a position away from a teacher, but also takes the administrative staff away from their administrative roles and their administrative duties.
Yes, because principals and vice principals are not a part of the union.
No, they have their own.
Yes.
So
Some people don't realize that.
So, and apparently as well, the funding to pay for the principals and vice principals to act as teachers comes from the teaching funding.
Yes, yeah.
So they have to, it's like the teachers have to reimburse the principals and vice principals for the fact that they're teaching, as opposed to hiring a teacher. Again, maybe it is a situation that a full-time teacher wouldn't be required for that position, but that's also why there's occasional teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's supply teachers and things like that. I mean, yes, you don't want to have a class that's completely run by supply teachers, but I mean, there's got to be something that can be done there instead, where it's not taking the vice principal away from their responsibilities within the administration of the school. There's a lot of things that schools have to worry about on the administration side of things. You don't need to be pulling them away for 3 or 4 hours a day so that they can teach a class.
Yeah.
Credit for occasional teaching. So it's like credit towards their
FTE. No,
yeah, exactly. Their full-time
Yeah.
status and things like that. So all work completed by occasional teachers should be credited.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, some school boards do it. I don't
Yeah.
know which ones do and which ones don't.
Paid time for professional training.
Again, it's baffling to me that it's not, but
Yeah.
sure. So if it's something that's mandated,
Yeah.
they should be paid. If it's something where you're trying to get a job promotion, no.
No, right.
That's it.
What they're talking about here is
The mandated stuff.
The mandated stuff where they have to take training and it's on a working day, so they have to take the day off. And again, in particular, a lot of what they were talking about here was occasional teachers, because occasional teachers are probably going to do more training because they're trying to get full-time positions. And so the issue here is that if a part-time occasional teacher has to take a day off of work to go to some sort of mandate, ministry training or something like that, they're not getting paid for that day.
Or if they have to do it after work.
Yeah.
Same thing.
They're not getting paid for that. And it's like, but this is stuff that they have to do for their job, not something that they want to do for their job. They don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to pay them. Where's the incentive?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the incentive? I mean, again, like I look at myself. I'm doing some upgrade courses. They're my choice. I pay for them. Whatever. That's out of my pocket. I'm not expecting an employer or some government organization or something like that to reimburse me for it. Fine. But if my employer has training that they want me to go to, I would expect there to be some sort of reimbursement for it. And there
Sure.
is.
Mm-hmm.
So why shouldn't that be the same? Related credit experience for DECEs. So in this case, what they were saying was, so designated early childhood educators get paid hourly as opposed to salary.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this was talking about was, I guess when a DECE comes into the union and comes into the school board, there's like a fixed amount per hour that they get paid because they've just joined.
Yeah.
And so they don't necessarily get credit for the fact that they have prior employment.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is, if they've worked as an ECE or something, or somewhere else, they should get credit for the fact that they have that experience, and they should be paid more than just a regular entry level person.
Yeah.
And then professional activity time for the DECEs as well, so that they can, because they have things that they have to plan for the students as well. And so it's providing them the same kind of time that the teachers get for lesson planning within the school day and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Because they're often on call all the time, including recess.
yeah, that was the point. That was the points from the elementary teachers.
Yep.
I don't know. To me, pretty straightforward, right? Anything you don't agree with?
So the cost of living expense, right? Because really, did you find anything about the secondary schools?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, that's next.
Well, just
I wanted
all-
to finish.
They're all the same.
Yes and no. I feel like there are some different things with the secondary school that I want to go over. But I figured I'd go over that stuff first.
Because they're basically the same, and I'm going to lump them in the same, almost.
Okay.
Because my arguments for and against them are the same.
Okay. Well, why don't I keep going then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going. Okay. So now again, this is the secondary school teachers. So again, I took this information from an article on the Ottawa Citizen because I couldn't find within the OSSTF's website of confusion.
Aladdin wishes.
Yeah, yes, with the Aladdin lamp as their logo. I couldn't find a summary that was readable by the average person to be like, what are they actually, what are their points? What are the issues that they have?
Yeah.
Like I knew beforehand kind of the baseline idea of what the issues were, but I didn't know the nitty gritty of them.
Yep. I
felt that this article at least gave me some of the nitty gritty of it. So education funding is the first thing. So the government of Ontario's economic update or economic statements, I guess, whether it's from the budget or anything like that, shows that education funding is increasing by $1.2 billion over the previous year. So it is almost a 4.5% increase. From the government side of things, they're saying, look, we are increasing spending because at the time before the budget came out, there was a lot of talk that the government was cutting spending on education. From a dollar perspective, they're spending more. But what the government included in their education funding as a part of the budget, about a third of that increase is for a new childcare tax credit that the government is introducing. Because like right now, there's a federal tax credit, it's a federal deduction for childcare expenses.
Yep.
Okay, which comes off of your to get down to your taxable income. So this is supposed to be a childcare tax credit based on what you spend on childcare in a year. And the government's figuring that that's going to cost them, at least in the first year, a little over $400 million. That cost they're putting in as money that they are spending on education.
Yes.
I mean, on the one hand, certain childcare atmospheres do have an education aspect to them.
But they're not comparing apples to apples.
No.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
Do you know what else they're doing?
Maybe.
I put a footnote in it.
Okay,
Remember how I said footnote?
Okay.
The attrition.
Oh, yes.
That's
right.
a part of that cost too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The actual act of trying to remove teachers is going to be part of like giving them teachers golden handshakes to get out the door as a part of their budget.
So they're including that as a part of their spending.
Yeah.
That part was not in this story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we know from previously the Ford governments, they like to say that, oh, don't worry, nobody's going to lose their jobs. We'll just do it through attrition.
Yes.
Yeah, you can just look that up in the city of Toronto and how well that worked.
No, nobody's losing their job. We're just getting rid of 22 wards.
No, I'm not talking about that.
You're not even talking about that.
No, I'm talking about the garbage.
There's more.
The garbage tray.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they said they're going to do it, through attrition.
Yeah.
And then, oops, didn't work out.
No.
And then they fired a bunch of people. Not one job lost.
Not one job lost.
Promises made, promises kept.
So you're talking about when like Rob Ford was mayor.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I remember that. The Fords. Yes.
The Fords.
When they were both in Toronto.
And I say that because
council.
Doug was very much approving of that. Like, it wasn't like he was against it in any way, shape, or form. He was talking the same talk.
He's talking the same then
points
as he does now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not saying anything different, and you're just saying, oh, the teacher's just going to magically go away. No.
So these numbers come from the Financial Accountability Office of Ontario. So this is very similar to the Parliamentary Budget Office.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is for the province. So in the last 5 years, education costs have gone up by about 2.2% per year, which is roughly in line with inflation.
Yep.
A little bit higher probably than inflation over that time.
Whatever.
And spending increased by 3.3% per year. So the spending was going up more than the costs.
Yes.
Okay. What they're showing is that in the next 5 years. The forecasting is calling for an average increase of spending of 1%, but with inflation costs and increased enrollment of students, that it's expected to increase by 2.7% per year. The costs are going to go up, but the spending, they're saying the spending's going up, but it's not really going up in favor of the actual education.
Yes. The conservative government that didn't balance the books, won't be balancing the books,
Yeah.
is cutting costs in healthcare.
Yes.
Or not education.
Well,
I mean,
we
healthcare too.
could talk about healthcare too, but
Not
that's
today.
that's not today. No.
Sorry, education. My apologies. I'm jumping the gun with the Ford government yet again.
Yeah. Class sizes again. So again, this one came with a little bit more numbers. The larger class sizes, if fully implemented, would eliminate over 10,000 teaching jobs and save $900 million a year.
Yes.
Okay. Now, $900 million a year sounds like a lot of money, right?
Sure.
I mean, maybe.
I don't really care about the 900 million. But
Yeah,
carry on.
that's fine. This is the... I don't want to call it fun because it's not fun. This is almost like the infuriating part of this argument right now in regards to the class sizes. Okay, the announcement with the average class size change initially by the government was that over the next 5 years, I guess, it was going to go from an average, and this is at the secondary school level, so it was going to go from an average of 22 students up to 28 per class.
Yep.
Okay. And this year alone, the 2019-2020 year, I think the average went up from 22 to 22 and a half. So there was already a slight increase, not much, but there was still a slight increase in the number of students in a classroom. There was a lot of outrage about this, and not just from teachers. Okay.
No. Yep.
The government walked it back a little bit, and they decided that average number, instead of being at 28 in the next 5 years, they'd go to 25 in the next 5 years. So the average was still going to go up, but it was only going to go up by 3 students per class instead of 6 students per class over the next 5 years. Then they start going on with press releases and interviews and Twitter posts and other stuff on social media like, look at this, what we're giving the teachers. We've said that we're going to reduce class sizes from 28 to 25. That's how they're selling it. They're selling it like the average class sizes were already at 28, and now they're reducing it to 25. And they're saying, look at this good thing that we're doing for the students and the teachers. We're reducing class sizes. It's like, no, you idiots. The class sizes were at 22. It's still going up to 25. It's just not going to go up to 28.
You're missing one key thing.
Which is what?
That he didn't actually propose it.
What do you mean?
He didn't. He says that he did.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't actually bring it to the collective bargaining agreement.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay.
So they're saying they're doing this, but they're actually not proposing it.
They're still trying to sell it as though they're reducing class sizes.
Oh yeah.
So Sam Oosterhoff, who's he's an MPP down in the Niagara region. He's one of the anti-abortion guys, among other things. And I think he's the deputy minister of education. So he even had a tweet like a couple of days ago where he's like, look, we're reducing class sizes from 28 to 25. And it's like, no, you're not. Stop with the BS. And how about you actually get back to the bargaining table and talk to the union and get this thing going?
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. That's I feel like this one's going to be my biggest rant out of this whole thing. It's not necessarily that I understand the class size issue, but don't try and pull the wool over people's eyes when they've already seen one piece of information and know that when you're changing to another piece of information and trying to say, oh, look, we're doing this good thing. Come on. E-learning. Actually, this was another thing. So maybe there's a little bit of outrage in this one too. So with the e-learning, so when the e-learning was introduced as being mandatory, so you can do online classes in high school right now, but it's optional.
Mm-hmm.
And so the PC government was making it was going to make it mandatory. At the same time that they said that they were going to increase average class sizes over the next 5 years up to 28. They also said that they were going to introduce mandatory e-learning where students had to take at least 4 of their 30 credits through online classes.
Yep.
Again, outrage ensues. People get upset. So the wording out of the government, and I think this actually was from a Doug Ford press conference, was like, oh, we've listened to the students, and this is what the students want. And then a bunch of media outlets came out and said, actually, no, there was a survey done, and 94% of students that were surveyed in different areas of the province said that e-learning was a terrible idea, and to make it mandatory was a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
Who were you listening to? What they're trying to do is they're trying to sell their walk back as though they've done something good for students, because they introduced it initially saying 4 credits would be mandatory through e-learning, and now because of the pushback, they've reduced it from 4 to 2, and they're like, look, before students had to take 4 credits while they were in high school through e-learning, and now they only have to take 2. Aren't we great? Didn't we do a good thing for the students? La 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 la. And it's like, no, because the number was 0 before.
Why was what do they promote? The reason why e-learning is a good thing? What did they compare it to? Do you know what that is?
Honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's only one other board that does it. It's in Alabama. And and their board is terrible. It's one of the worst in the States.
Oh, perfect. All right.
And that's what they're using as an example. Look, the other people are doing it. Alabama, one of the worst boards is doing it, so we should do it too.
Yes. So let's put us in a position that we are the jurisdiction in North America that requires the most number of mandatory online learning credits for our high school students. Yep. I get that the prevalence of being able to access information online is a lot higher than when both of us were in school. Mm-hmm. When both of us were in school, people were still using like Netscape Navigator and AOL and stuff like that. And now kids would be like, what the heck is that stuff? I understand that technology is more prevalent, but there are still kids that, their parents can't afford them to have a fancy cell phone with a whole bunch of data. They can't afford to have they might not have internet at home, or they might not have great internet. They might not have a computer. Like, there's still kids that would be, or even kids in rural locations would potentially have issues if they had to take these mandatory online courses, because are they always going to be able to access the information? Are they going to have enough time when they're at school to be able to access the information because they'll have a period set aside for their e-learning course or something like that? Like, I'm not sure all of the logistics in regards to how the e-learning fits in, say, to a student's daily schedule, but there's still hang-ups in access to technology that making it mandatory. I don't feel like we're there yet.
E-learning is a tricky one. On the one hand, to deny technology is one of the worst things that unions do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fighting against technology. You're losing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is that's why I have the problem with the people that are like, they need to put cursive back in school. And it's like, the only thing that I use cursive for now is to sign my name. And I did cursive lessons when I was in school.
Yeah, my kids can't write with garbage, but who cares? They just use their computer.
Exactly. Everybody types stuff now.
Though typing's not a mandatory thing, is it still? Your kids?
No, it's not mandatory. It's
never mandatory. Sorry,
it's not a compulsory credit.
But you can still take it, right?
Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah. Good. Okay. Yeah. Same people that browbeat old school math are the same people that are trying to push e-learning. That's the part I like.
Yeah. So I guess to finish off the e-learning one, the union's position is that e-learning should remain optional. So have it there, but don't force kids to do it. Easy enough. Wages. Okay, now we're at wages. Now we're at compensation. The government passed legislation earlier this year called Bill 124. And part of that bill was limiting wage increases for public servants to 1% per year for the next 3 years.
Yep.
And then what did they do right after?
You mean you talk about the one where they give themselves a raise?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Where not just a raise, a retroactive raise. Retroactive raise.
This is the one. Okay, I remember way back when Mike Harris was in government. Okay, and he did his freeze on teachers, things like this. This was back in '94. He also froze his wages too.
Yeah.
And this is the big thing that I don't understand. And Harris came in with, a really bad recession.
Mm-hmm.
And he just cut everything.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, well, he cut it. Yeah, but he cut everything equally. He was just like, I have to slash. Like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Ford has a choice. Like, you don't give yourself a raise and then say, well, the teachers are trying to make too much money.
Not just the teachers, all public servants.
Yeah.
And this is
Why
is
are
part
they
of
not a part of public servants? I don't get this.
exactly.
How
They are public servants
So how are they getting?
because rules for me but not for thee, or rules for thee but not for me. Either way,
Yeah.
either way, I win.
Yeah. Like,
I
geez.
make the rules, right? So.
How
So-
are you selling this?
So the argument, so the bill passed, obviously. The argument from the unions, and not just teachers unions, but unions in general, is that the law interferes with collective bargaining.
Yeah.
Because the unions have the right to bargain, or because of the agreements that they have, especially in the public sector with the government, to bargain for their wages and for wage increases and things like that. And so the government introducing legislation that forces a wage increase goes against the rights that the unions have to collectively bargain their agreements, including compensation. So the teachers union, in this case, so secondary student teachers union, is asking for cost of living adjustment raises. Stephen Lecce's point or argument on this is that the teachers are asking for $1.5 billion in additional compensation per year, which I was reading somewhere that number is coming from is essentially arguing that the teachers are asking for a raise based on the percentage of GDP increase, not cost of living, and they're two different things.
Yes.
What the teachers union is saying is they would like annual raises based on the consumer price index, which over the last few years has kind of hovered around the 2% mark. Now the argument from private sector people is like, well, not everybody gets a 2% raise every year. And it's like, yes, you're right, but they have the right to
Yes.
what's the word? To negotiate for this. That's what I was
Yeah, they
thinking.
do have the right to negotiate with this, but are they going to get the public on their side?
That's I suppose that's the
Right.
hard part. There are definitely people in the public or in the public that work in the private sector that will be on the teacher's side for this, but there's definitely people that don't. I mean, it's hard to sell something like this to someone who works minimum wage, because minimum wage isn't even being increased by the cost of living, by the consumer price index.
It's hard,
right?
Unless you have a job that's unionized, it's going to be hard to sell.
Yeah.
And Stephen Lecce has one good point, and I'll grant him this.
This ought to be good.
That Ontario teachers are the second highest paid.
Average, yes, in the country.
In the country.
Alberta's first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But when you take into fact that they get paid very, very well, and if you look at the numbers as far as the education numbers, as far as how well our students in Ontario are doing, they're not going up; they're going down.
You mean like with standardized testing and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why should they get a raise? That's a very hard sell.
Mm.
And one that you're not going to, like, people aren't going to be like, oh, yeah, you should get a raise just because cost of living goes up. Like, no. Just because you're able to negotiate for that doesn't mean that you should. Now, if I was the teachers, how I would phrase this is, I want the same raise that our MPPs are getting minus 1%. And then see how much they want to say. Right, just and flatly say that. Say, I want 1% less than the MPPs are getting.
Yeah.
Because they're getting 3.5 to 4.6, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact numbers. But that's what they should say for us. No,
Yeah.
we don't want more than the MPPs. We want 1% less.
Yeah.
We're willing to compromise.
Yeah.
Unlike, that's how we'd phrase it. Because if you're going to phrase it as cost of living, people that aren't going to get raises
People that aren't going to get cost of living adjustments don't. Yeah.
are just going to say, well, bite me.
Yeah.
Right? You guys get paid very well.
Yeah.
And they do. They do get paid very well. Now, I mean, I'm not going to go into why, but they do get paid very well. And they do get paid very well compared to other teachers.
Right.
I'm not saying they get paid well from, from an industry standard. So the cost of living one, that's going to be a real stickler. And Stephen Lecce's very much hammering that home. And Harvey, is it?
Oh, Howard Bischoff, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He starts with an H. He's very much saying, he doesn't acknowledge that that's a big stumbling block.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're going to, like, that cost of living one, that's going to be a hard sell.
Maybe their reasoning behind saying cost of living adjustment is that it doesn't sound like a lot. But again, like you said, I mean, a lot of people don't even get that.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
So that's a hard sell. Like, I mean, if I talk to my brother, for instance, he doesn't make minimum wage, but he doesn't want to see teachers get a raise.
Right.
He doesn't feel like they deserve it.
Okay. Now, the last thing on the list. Now, chances are, in the order of things, this is probably higher than the wages, but it's just the order that it was in this Ottawa Citizen article was special needs funding. From what I understand, when the previous collective bargaining agreement came to an end on August 31st, 2019, there was funding within the agreement that essentially got cut off that had to do with special needs.
Yeah.
So it didn't carry forward the way that a lot of the other funding does, because even though technically there's no agreement in place, there's like an agreement in principle until a new agreement is signed.
Yeah, status quo until something else.
Right. And so apparently there's a bunch of funding that has to do with special needs that it's off the table August 31st. So as I understand it, quite a bit of the teachers that ended up not having positions to go back to in September also happened to be the like special education and special needs and teachers and things like that.
But Adam, there was no jobs lost.
No jobs lost.
Promises
Not
made.
one.
Promises kept.
So now CUPE, which is a public sector union, and they deal with more of the support staff with the schools. So they did sign an agreement in early October. So they now have a new collective bargaining agreement. I think theirs is for the next 3 years, and they did end up taking the 1% raise.
Yes.
As a part of their agreement. And so this is another thing where the government is saying, well, the CUPE, the union there and their employees agreed with the 1% raise, so the teachers should do the same, right?
Yeah, but it's not the same.
No, it's not the same. But part of the funding in the CUPE, or part of the CUPE deal was also reintroducing funding towards special needs to ensure that those positions were saved. There's about 1,200 jobs related to special needs, and mostly the notes that were in the article was that it was mostly for EAs, so education assistants.
Mm-hmm.
So the two teachers unions are essentially looking for the same thing, because there's funding that between elementary and secondary level that affects about 500 teachers and support staff across the province when it comes to special needs, and these are people that have specialized in particular, like they have particular training when it comes to taking care of students that have, whether it's disabilities, whether it's mental issues or health issues or anything of that nature, that your regular teacher has not taken the training or whatever to handle, right?
Yeah.
You can't really expect a teacher to be able to handle the situation correctly, or to just take those students and say, whatever some people might say about, well, you shouldn't segregate special needs students anyways. It's like, yes, but
sometimes they need more. Like
they need more focus.
And a child in a wheelchair is a good example, because yes, they may not want to be segregated from the class, but if they need help because of their paralysis getting in and out of the bathroom,
mm-hmm.
the regular teacher can't do that because they need help with writing, they need help with anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The regular teacher shouldn't be responsible for that, because that's just taking away time from all the other students.
Right.
Now, do you hear what Stephen Leachy's big touting about the fact that he's spending an extra $200 million on that, even though it's from the exact same thing?
Because I know there was notes up here in regards to the education funding about how the government has increased funding to mental health. Never mind the fact that it also was not an increase. It was, we cut, and then we decided we'd backpedal on the cut and say, look, we increased spending on mental health. It's like, no, it was supposed to be $600 million. Now it's only $300 million. Just saying, that's a cut in comparison to what was supposed to happen.
Oh, that's Ford government ammo.
I know.
We're going to cut it, and then we're going to bring it back, and we're going to say we increased it.
Yeah. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I love it. I just love it.
Those were the main points that I could find in regards to the secondary school teachers. So,
and this is the thing, like, and Stephen Leachy's always about. He talks. Sometimes he'll talk policy, and sometimes he'll talk bargaining, and so the union does. As far as making e-learning mandated as a part of the curriculum, that's policy.
Mm.
Where the teachers should strike on is the fact that they're losing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the teachers' primary talking point should be. They should be talking about the number of job losses, because they can't say, like, because you're increasing class sizes, that's a bad thing. They can, but you should be talking about the fact that you're losing jobs. That's
an easier way to get the public on your side.
Yeah.
People are losing their jobs because of these decisions that the government's making.
Yeah. Don't talk about class sizes.
Yeah.
Because if a conservative or a right-leaning person that put Ford in place, they put him in place for a reason, and some of it is to make cuts.
Yeah.
The problem that a lot of people don't understand is they can't cut based on how good of a teacher is. They cut based on seniority. So they can't be like, this teacher's useless, let's get rid of this person. That can't happen.
No.
They have to cut based on seniority.
Yep.
So you need to focus on job loss, not e-learning, not class sizes.
Mm-hmm.
They are important. There are talking points. I believe the class sizes are very, very important. But, if I don't care about classes, e-learning, again, I think that's something that for certain people is fine. For other people, it's not. So why are you making people do it?
Right.
Right? Like if you want to put money into promoting it, to giving kids the opportunity to learn about it, to get more kids to do it, fine. I have no problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because e-learning is going to be a thing. E-learning is going to continue to evolve and get better and better and better. And it may actually be beneficial, because what a kid might be able to do is they might be able to learn they might be an e-learner course, let's say in math, and they can choose from 10 different teachers.
Right.
That's an opportunity that they can't have in their normal class. Whoever you get assigned for your class, that's who he is.
That's right.
If you don't like the teacher, that's too bad. Like, I've had some really bad math teachers, and reasons why I didn't take certain classes because I didn't want to take it with that math teacher.
Right.
Not because I couldn't do the work, but I was like, no way I'm doing it with this teacher.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. That can be beneficial, but it's something you do gradually as opposed to instantaneously, and definitely frame it like, we'll take whatever the MPPs are getting. Oh, we'll take 1% less. Like, that would be like, what are they going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And then saying, we like to have our supplies being cost, just like the MPPs get their housing cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, and that was another thing that the MPPs increased as well. Not only the 14% raise, but also the increased housing allowance. Right.
You tie it into things that they did.
Yeah.
So that way they don't have a leg. You cut their legs from them.
Yeah.
And Stephen Leach is like, well, I didn't take it. So you still passed it.
That's right. You still allowed it to happen.
Like, it doesn't matter if you don't take it. Like, what does that matter? Oh, you didn't take it. Cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Did you don't get your salary? Oh, probably not.
No. I think you're going to be all right. And I mean, like, yeah. Oh, I didn't take the 14% raise. And you're still making over $200,000 a year.
I mean, compared to the person they had before, he's doing a better job.
Well, yes. I mean, come on.
He's still like, listen, he's trying to put lipstick on a pig. Give him some credit. I wish that was figurative.
That's you're being insulting to pigs.
Yeah, why are we bringing pigs down? Sorry, pigs. Sorry, pigs.
Anyways, I think in the grand scheme of things, we both are relatively on the teacher's side.
The only other thing that they have a problem with is the fact that they've been striking every goddamn 3 years, which really pisses people off.
It's okay, but there's been threatening to strike and actually striking.
Whatever.
I know. Yeah. Well, this is unions. This is part of their bargaining actions.
You want empathy?
No, I know. I don't disagree with you on that point of view. But there are people out there like, it feels like the teachers are striking every year, and it's like the last teacher strike was 20 years ago. It doesn't help that it is that as a union, it is one of the options that they have to try and take some control away from the government is to strike. And that sometimes they feel like they have to threaten to strike in order to either get the government to the table or to finish getting the agreement signed and everything. But it has been 20 years since the last actual strike.
Yeah, I know. But threatening a strike and striking is the same.
They're similar. They're similar.
Unless they did a really big strike, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. to go back to what I was saying, I think for the most part we're on the same side of this.
Oh, yeah, for
but
sure.
yes, there's definite things within the teachers positions that, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get the average citizen on your side,
They're failing.
It's not going to work.
They are failing. Like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that drives me bonkers. I'm like, but you have so many easy things to say,
Yeah.
and just destroy the government on.
Yeah.
But you're trying to talk like as if, oh, well, we have the right to do this. Sorry, there's not everyone that thinks that you have the right to ask for more money every time you go to a collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
And not everyone's going to say, well, we're losing jobs because of computer advancements. Well, that's life.
Maybe there would be less animosity towards teachers if the agreements, I don't know. I don't know if it's like a legislation thing that limits this, but maybe if the agreements were longer than 3 years. So it didn't feel like, oh, the teachers are going on strike again all the time.
Well,
right?
What they should do is have it right before elections. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I
That's
think
what I would do if I was a teacher.
I would also say maybe with this next agreement, you have it so that rather than the agreement ending on September 1st or August 31st, so that it's like, oh, the school year starts in 4 days and we don't have an agreement. Maybe the agreement should come to an end like July 1st. Although I suppose since the MPPs aren't sitting during the summer, they're just not going to be at the bargaining table anyways.
That's why it's not done.
I guess we're done here. I guess
Yep.
we're done with this topic
Yep.
for now. All right, so that's been the Ontario teachers strike from Poutine Politics. Thanks for listening. My name's Adam.
My name is Mike.
We'll talk to you soon.